good to see all my favorite people again, virtually, of course. Welcome back to this week's episode. We're going to get started on disassembling everything, get it prepped for paint, remove some of the mechanical and electrical stuff that we're not going to be using, and we're going to be relocating the harness. That is the main focus on this video. It's not going to be a walkthrough or anything like that because there's multiple ways to do this. This is going to be my way of designing a way to get as much of the body harness as I can inside the car, and any of the engine harness when I get to that point will be ran to the inside of the car. That way we can keep it clean, keep it open, and overall just have it's just a better look. And since it's already fully disassembled, that step is going to be pretty easy for us. I would never do this if this car was more complete. I would just roll the harness up into the fender like most 240 owners do. But since we're at this point, I want to take care of it a little bit better. Now, before jumping into the video, I want to thank all the returning people coming back and checking this out. And everybody else is new, consider subscribing. We're going to be having this really badass build going on here with this 240. It's going to definitely going to take some time. So a lot of content on this, and then we'll be doing some other cool stuff in the future once this is done, or in between periods of, waiting. And of course, the t-shirt I'm wearing, you can get this on my website. I'm only selling these for a limited time up until January, and then I'm going to stop. But this helps support the channel too. So head over to shogunautomotive.com down in the description below, and let's jump right into what we got going on today. Doing some research after the fact as to what I can do with the body harness, see if there's a better way to do it than what I had in mind. A couple things I found out. One, the way that I'm doing it, definitely the hard way. Now, I'm doing it this way because I'm poor. I don't make a lot of money, so I gotta, work with what I got, and sometimes I gotta do stuff the hard way to get, I guess, the result that I'm looking for. If you are also somebody in this boat and need a way to, delete your body harness because you're trying to do more of a race car setup, more, less wiring, less other stuff going on, so you have more space, more room, less weight, whatever it is you're trying to do, this is how we're going to do it. I have schematics and all that stuff. I know a lot of it is on the internet, but you have to dig for it. I have everything on my laptop, which I have out right now, so it's going to help me find the wiring diagram for the body harness. And then what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be making this a two-part video. So we're going to get the harness labeled. My ability to overthink things never fails me. So in this part of the clip, I'm leaving it in because I like to take you guys through my thought process, but I was overthinking this, and I was going to do it very difficult, where I labeled everything from the end connector to the relays to everything like that before even opening up the body harness. Anyways, this next clip, I talk about doing it a much simpler way. I left it in because it's not that I wasn't giving you guys misinformation. The way I was going to do it, definitely much harder. Fast forward to today, the next day, and I thought of an easier way to do it because I know what pretty much all the wiring is on these cars. I've dealt with these cars pretty much my whole life, and so I'm very familiar with, what it plugs into what and what is what. Now, even if you don't know what is what, you can still do what I did, which I'm going to show you here in a minute, but I taped everything off that I know I'm going to keep. And when you get to the point of disassembling the harness, basically opening it up and pulling all the wires out, finding which relays they go to and which fuse they go to, is going to be a much easier way of figuring out what it is exactly I need. And then in part two of this little project for the body harness, I'll be going over the organization and what wires we'll be going over and all that, because once I have it fully open, it's going to be much easier to pinpoint what goes where, and I'll be using my multimeter to test for continuity back and forth, just to double check the diagrams that I have pulled up on my laptop. So with that, let me show you real quick exactly pretty much the bare basics we're gonna keep out of the factory harness, because everything else we do to this car in the future, it's getting its own. I'm doing all the wiring custom, and it works out because a lot of the harness, I'll show you right now, pretty cut up. All right, we're gonna be starting from ass to mouth, and the first thing on the list here is this part of the harness. This is for the wiper motor. Now that is ran on its own relay because this down here has, you know, multiple settings. What we're actually going to do with this is we're going to wire it up to just a switch, and this is going to be on a medium setting or high setting or whatever it defaults to. Moving on to the fuse box here, a lot of this is super important. This all connects to the engine harness. Now all of this is going to be inside the car in the future, so this is all going to have to be extended, but for the time being we're just going to get everything taken apart, pulled apart, and everything like that. I might extend it and run it and have it ready, but we'll see. I have a lot of plans, and there's a lot of stuff that certain things need to be done to the car first before I move on to certain things. So we'll just cross that bridge when we get to it. And then the next thing here is the passenger side headlight system. So I think the short one is just for the headlights, and these down here, that one's I think for the turn signal, and that's the main. Again, I'll go in more detail in the second part of this video. Is the driver's side. All these relays are for the lighting. All these relays control, they're the different settings on the switch, so when you turn it, you have your running lights, your headlights, and then your high beams. Oh, this was harness number 1, by the way, that I figured out they cut. So yeah, they did something already to it, so gonna have to rewire that anyways. Moving on to the inside of the rat's nest, so we got the ignition. So this plugs into everything on the steering column. This is all super important. This is what's gonna start the car and everything like that. I was thinking about maybe doing like a push start, switches, all that stuff, but I kind of want to keep the key. But of course, it all depends if we get to a point to where everything's gonna be on switches anyways, to like the fuel pump, all that, you know. And then if we're getting into it more like that, we might just do switches. Down here we have the window switch. I might keep it. I might try to find manual doors, but I'm gonna pull all this apart, label it, and put it to the side just in case I do plan to stick these back in. The speakers I am gonna keep. I can deal with no heat, no AC. I can deal with all the other stuff that makes it a convenience. Have to have my music. That is super important. And speaking of, they cut the radio harness. Lovely. But all of this rat's nest, this is all for climate control and other switches, and we're not going to need any of it. They also took it upon themselves to snip the fuel pump harness. I think that one is, or it could be that one. I have them both taped off just in case, but I'm going to go through, like I said, part 2 of this video that I'm doing. I'm going to go through it all, but back here, this is one of these is the fuel pump harness. And then last but not least, we have the harness for the rear lights, turn signals, reverse, brake, all that, and license plate. And we're going to keep that in because I've been pulled over before because of that. So those are staying. The side markers, I'm going to be doing something cool. I'm going to be putting some flashers in them. It's going to be real Japanese. I don't know. I've always liked that look, so I'm going to put little flashers on the sides there. Now, if you're doing something like this yourself, hopefully this helps you out getting a basic idea of like the main connectors throughout the car that you're going to need to just run it for, you know, just street legal, like to a street legal standard. This is a very basic idea, but if the way my brain works is if I mark all this off and then pull out the harness and start pulling from each end all the way through, it'd be a lot easier to figure out where it's exactly going and where I can take it out of the system to set it off and basically tape it off even more, saying, hey, this is the full, you know, rear brake light system. And then once we have everything separated and organized, we can go back into the car. Again, I'm gonna have more information in detail with the wiring diagrams and all that in the part 2 of this video. So you'll have to wait for that one because it's gonna take me some time to pull all this out anyways, and I just wanna stay focused and get it done. Because wiring for me, and I know for a lot of people, can be very daunting. And it's not that it's super complicated and super hard, especially with these older cars, because they're not using a lot of sensors and other electrical components like newer cars nowadays, but there's still so much going on, it's very easy to get overwhelmed. So of course, if you have any questions or anything like that, I can maybe help you out if you comment down below, or if you want to send me a message on Instagram or Facebook, you can reach me there as well. But with that, I got a lot of work to get going on, so share this video with your friends that are into 240 builds, and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on this build. And with that, I'll see you guys on the next video. Don't forget to do something kind for somebody tomorrow, and have a great day. Okay, bye-bye.